Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. I'm Neil Holbert, and this is Running Ribashda. I'm at Boards and Brews in Manchester, New Hampshire, where you can have a great time with your friends, have some delicious food and drinks, and play some awesome games. Today, we're talking about dungeon design. So, you have an idea for an epic dungeon, a mega dungeon, if you will. You want your players to dive through 34 stories underground of dungeon crawl. And this is exhausting. I can't do this. 34 levels of dungeon crawl? Like, what are you doing with your life, man? Come on. Ain't nobody got time for that. Unless the point of your campaign is that the whole campaign is one epic dungeon crawl, why would you do that to your players? It's mean. You're taking out fantastic role-playing opportunities in a social sense and all kinds of great opportunities for you as a dungeon master to really stretch your legs. So, sure, do the mega dungeon, but make that your whole campaign if you're doing the mega dungeon. Or, make a mini mega dungeon. 7 or 8 floors. That's still a lot of dungeon if you do it right. But when you're making your dungeon, to save yourself and just the strain on your brain, here's an idea. Limit the features and the monsters. I'm not saying make the entire dungeon crawl homogeneous, make all the rooms identical. No. But the dungeon was all built by one thing, right? Like, it's an ancient dwarven city that's been taken over by orcs and goblins. Or, oh, it's an ancient Mayan city that's been taken over by the Yuan-Ti. This is a European city that's overrun by lycanthropes. It's not going to be homogenous, but it is all going to be thematically similar. So when I say limit features and monsters, I'm saying overall stuff looks similar. So like your stonework in your dungeon, unless the dungeon itself was remade or added onto by later denizens or inhabitants, it's all going to look pretty much the same and at the same level of wear and tear. So your ancient dwarven city, it's all going to look like dwarven ruins or an intact dwarven city. There might be a couple of natural caverns in it because the dwarves like that. That's great, man. It sounds like some solid dungeon design. Oh, and it's going to be overrun by orcs and goblins. Cool. Orcs and goblins are solid choices. Yeah, sure. Even give the orcs a couple of wargs that some of them ride. Yeah. Maybe even they have a stone ogre? That's a pretty tight dungeon design, JRR. It's pretty good. Now, if your dungeon is all from one group of creatures that made it, it's all going to look similar in styling in one way or another. And your monsters that inhabit your dungeon are probably all going to be in a similar vein. They're all going to have some reason to be there together. But think about this. What do those monsters eat? Are they all just living off the dire rats that are running around in the dungeon? Or okay, so they're running around eating off the dire rats. What do the dire rats eat? Some slimes or fungus that hangs out? Yeah, okay. So take a look at your dungeon as you're designing it and really think about the ecology of it. The circle of life, the food chain, if you will. These are things that exist in the real world, and they should exist in your game world too. Because that's going to help sell the believability of your world. If your players are running through the dungeon and they see that the orcs were barbecuing the dire rats, they're going to go, oh, orcs were barbecuing dire rats. That's why they weren't raiding the nearby settlements. They had food, so they didn't need to think about that. Cool, cool. And then, oh, there was dire rats, skeletons floating in this gelatinous cube. I wonder how that happened. Oh, there's some orc gear in this gelatinous cube too. Oh, I wonder how that happened. Really, you look at how the creatures that you have in your dungeon all interact with each other and what their food chain looks like from an ecology standpoint, you're going to be able to put together some really cool encounters for your players using that information when you take another look at it. Think about the current state and the current owners of your dungeon. You have this really cool dwarven city that's been overrun by orcs and goblins, right? Okay. They're probably not making new rooms. They're probably just taking what's there and using it. So, do you think the orcs would be keeping that place clean? I don't know, that's your choice. Do you think they're going to care about the giant book of grudges that most dwarves keep in their city? No, that is probably going to be either rotting or will have been used for kindling, because do orcs really care about reading? Again, that's up to you as a DM. That's your call for your world. There is one thing that dungeons should have in common, though. And I mean, there are times when you can omit this. You know, like if you look in the Tomb of Horrors, Asarak has a bunch of fake outs for his lair. You know, there's how many fake tombs that players can go run through accidentally before they find the real one? That's also smart dungeon design, because that's a villain that was thinking while he was making where he lived. But in the end, when your adventure wraps up, there should be some kind of big payoff for your players. Something that made all of it worth it. Even if that's just them getting through the other side of the mountain and finally seeing light after losing their wizard. They lost something great along the way, but they made it out with their lives at a terrible cost. That sounds like a pretty good story to me.